Good enough. Oh boy. Oh, this is already gonna be such a time, I can tell. Hi. It's been a little while. I'm gonna be so real. I don't feel super good. My digestive system decided that it wanted to remind me that yes, I do have IBS. There is a small possibility I will have to take a break to like shit my brains out. And I spilled water. What a day! But hi. Welcome to this. This was truly so inspired of me, if I'm honest. You know, I've missed being able to stream, but because my schedule has been so crazy and consistent, and then I will be unable to stream for a week. I was like, I want to do something, like a one-off, right? But GeoGuessr, like we're always playing GeoGuessr. I was like, oh, you know, a tier list would be fun, but I don't want to do Ace Attorney yet because we're not done. I ain't even close. And I was like, you know what I don't shut up about on this channel besides Ace Attorney? MXTX. If you come across this and you've never watched anything on my channel, first of all, hi. I hope you're having a good day. Second of all, in the background of me playing video games, I do be making MXTX references. I've read all 3 series. I've read Scum Villain 3 times now. I've watched every iteration of Grandmaster except the Chibi Q. And then Heaven Officials, I've watched in Japanese and Chinese, plus read the books. And I'm in the middle of rereading them right now, actually. So I thought it would be fun if we did this. I am going to say it's time. Hi Nem, I hope you're feeling better. I am going to say that oops, did I add 2? Oopsie, I didn't mean to do that. I'm stupid. Delete this row. I will say this is gonna be round 1. This is gonna be round 1. Round 1, I'm going to be, because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I couldn't decide if I wanted to be objective or subjective, and I realized, why not both? Por qué no los dos, for real? And so, this time I'm gonna be as objective as I possibly can be. And the next time will be so silly. So let's just go in order. Better than yesterday, that's good. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. So how I'm gonna kind of rate these is S tier is like they're a great, well-written character. They stuck with me. The more I think about this character, the longer I'm just like, oh, what a great, I want to write like this. It's like, oh, like even I aspire to this rating level. Okay, so A is gonna be great character. Just a great character, and there's gonna probably be a lot of those. B is gonna be like good, but missing some stuff, right? C is gonna be like pretty mid, but like not bad. D is gonna be extreme, like low effort character. Not well written. And then who is gonna be, I literally don't even like, did they matter? Did they even matter? Okay, so that's kind of be the vibe for this one. All right. Okay, let's just start from the beginning. the Brigade Immortal from Heaven Official's Blessing. Is it really a character? I don't even consider this a character. This is a, like, I would call this a literary device. So I would put this in D because it is just a literary device, right? White no face. We're already starting out with like such hard ones. What the fuck? Okay. A plot device. Yeah, right? White no face. All right, let's think. White no face is responsible for a lot of the troubles in Heaven Official's Blessing. Obviously, this is going to have spoilers in it, by the way. I probably should make that like a little note, right? I'm just gonna pin that here. All right. So as a villain, I think White No Face is really interesting because they are so like traditionally the thing that lurks. You know how some horror movies are so effective because they never let you see the creature, right? And we do eventually realize what is behind the mask, but like that is part of the effect. But I do feel that sometimes this character is a little one note. I see in the list that the true character is there later. We'll get into that more. I'm gonna put this in B. Okay. Oh no. Banyue. Also from Heaven Officials. I know we're not doing this objective thing right now, but I really liked her, but like I'm very partial to the tropes that she fulfills. However, I do not think that she is the best example of those tropes, and I do not feel that we got enough time with her for her to be anything more than C tier. And that hurts me physically because that's my daughter, but she's really not doing a lot. She does serve some backstory, like, how do I say, plumpening the backstory of Xiedian, but she just isn't doing enough. What she does do, I think, is good. Is it the best version of what she could be? No. And for those who watch this, who happen to know the House and Fata Morgana, hopefully you agree with me. Fangxin. This is so hard. I'm glad I'm doing this version first. Okay. Fangxin. So I'm in the middle of rereading Heaven Officials right now, and I have to say rereading it is really making me appreciate some characters more. And I would say that he's probably one of them, but I do think that he is one that from the beginning I realized, like, what a good character he is. He feels very real. His experiences feel very real. He's like his character is built on loyalty, right? And that's an extremely common, dude, it's really hard. This is an extremely common trope. Especially I think in Danmei, right? Like, or at least in Asian writings, is like the character who's built on loyalty within a trio, right? And so comparing him to like other characters that are also built on loyalty, and like that's their main thing. Do I think he's the best? No. But do I think that he's a really good character? I do. I think that when you think about him more, he's one of those ones that you do think about and you're like, yeah, wow. I don't think he's S tier. I think that we were possibly missing a little bit with him. But when I think about it as objectively as I can, most of those things really just have to do with like his interactions when he was younger. I think that I would put him in A, but I would make him maybe a little bit lower A. We'll see. We'll see who else I end up in A. Because I don't think that he's like teetering to the S tier. But I don't think that he's B. Maybe he's just solidly A. But I do think he's a great character. And the things that he's missing are not pivotal to understanding who he is as a character. They aren't mostly like, I want to know more about this character, because the things I do know about him are so appealing. I think it's good that he's accidentally good. I think that he's accidentally good because MXTX took out some of the best parts of him in the revised version, it seems like. Yeah, I should say, I don't know that much about the revised version of Heaven Officials, so that is not in my mind. I am reading the English release through 7Cs, the OG version of that, I guess. That's not OG at all. Opposite of OG. Anyway, but he is a character that I as I'm reading it again, I'm noticing little things about him that I think are very good details, and I think that he feels very real. He feels like a person you could meet in real life very easily. Gong Yishao. This guy... Man, this is hard. This is a hard one. Okay. What did he serve? What was his purpose? He was meant... Okay, the Scumvillain characters are going to be really hard, right? Because they are fictional characters within a fictional universe, like doubled. Because they are the characters that Shang Qinghua created, right? So when I think about original Gong Yishao and who he was supposed to be, he was supposed to be kind of this, how do you call this? Like a parallel to Binga. If he wasn't shipped with Zhu Jilong, I probably wouldn't remember him. Yeah, he doesn't serve a lot of purpose in Scumvillain. He does in Proud Immortal Way, because he's meant to be like the parallel, but like the, I guess, foil to Binga. And, you know, because he looks like him, and he kind of does that in Scumvillain, but not really, so I'm gonna have to put him here. I'll put him above the Brocade Immortal, because I think this is just not even a character, but like, he's not... I love what the fandom does with him. Tarnished Gold, that goes crazy. The way people treat him in the fandom is really good. I don't think that he's meant to be important. And that comes through with the writing. If he was meant to be important, he's not well written to be important. So I think either way he's going to end up in D. Hua-chan. Hua-chan is really interesting because I did not appreciate how he was written until like volume 5 or 6. Because he's so obsessive, right? But as I'm rereading it, I really appreciate how he's written. I'm seeing these tiny little details in his character that I did not notice before. Someone on Twitter, I don't know who this was, someone on Twitter pointed out that it's really interesting that he gave his ashes to Xielian to wear as a ring around his neck, and like to sit on his chest, because when he was a child, he would cling to that part of Xielian's like robes and body. I thought that was so interesting. Like, that's his safe zone. And when I think about like who he is as a character for half of the novel or half of the story, he's just this abused child. And we know I'm always consuming a media with child abuse allegories, or not even allegories, just straight up child abuse. Do I think he's the best? Again, no, but I do think that he's a really good character. And I'm really kind of sad that it took me such a while, like a long while to get there. Because I think that the fandom may have kind of ruined my impression of him before I got into the book, if I'm honest. He's such an asshole too. I really do like that he is always true to himself, in that he is always about Gogo. Like he loves like Xielian, and then everybody else he like maybe mildly tolerates at best. Also, he tells Paving to kill himself. But then we'll save that for the subjective round. But as far as like character writing goes, I would actually put him about the same as Feng Xin, but a little bit above. Just because like he's the male lead, there's a little bit more thought put into him, I think, overall. But I would say that they're about the same. And this is going to be such a take, but I think of all of the male leads, he might be the weakest writing, because he's a little less dimensional. Like he doesn't really have as many dimensions to him as Nanzhan or Binghe. So what the fuck is this song? It's annoying. Alright, moving on. Heshen. This is hard. This is gonna be one of the hardest ones, I think. This music is so funny for this. God. I just want to see, do they have Mingyi listed separately? I don't think they do, right? They don't. Okay. If that's the case, so we're including all of his interactions as both Heshen and Mingyi. In which case, I think that he's also a really good character, but we're missing some things with him. Because I think that he is so interesting when you think about it. You know, his whole thing is getting revenge on Shi Wudu. And then he's dragging Shi Qingxuan into it as well, because they're the ones who got their fate switched, right? And so he kind of follows him around. Like, he's clearly monitoring him. But also, he did not have to, like, follow him around. You know what I mean? Like, he clearly has some affection or attachment, let's say, toward the Windmaster, which is so fascinating. But I don't feel like that was emphasized as much as it could have been. I think there are some really funny things about him as well. The fact that he owes a ton of money to Hua Cheng. And, you know, like, he's got the quirk of, like, eating all the time, but it's actually very sad when you realize that he, you know, was starving when he was dying. And so, I don't know, I just feel like we could have had a little bit more from him. I'm gonna put him as, like, a high, probably, like, the highest B. Because I do think he's better than White No Face. But I don't think that he's better than these two. Or at least he's not better than Feng Xin. I might move these around. That's a really hard one. That one might get moved. We'll see. Okay. Ah Qing. You know, this is also a difficult one because she really... He's great for fanfic because there's so much to expand on. You're so right. You're so right. That's I really enjoyed writing the fic for Beef Leaf because of that. Ah Qing is really hard because I feel like she straddles the line of literary device and character, because when she's a ghost, she is so a plot device. She is the thing that connects Wei Wuxian and the juniors and Lanzhan to the things that happened in the past. But when the things that were happening in the past were happening, she was a character. She's fascinating because she's just as clever as Shui Yang. And it kind of gives you this like, okay, Shui Yang killed people, right? Those are not good things. You don't kill people. That's not okay. But like, I feel that if Ah Cheng had been through the same experiences as him and like lost her family in the same way that he lost his, and like all this stuff, that she has the same personality, that she would have become just like him, which is really interesting. All of this being said, I think that she's better than Banyue, but I don't think that she would go above C, maybe the lowest B. She might move as well. We'll see. Wen Zhuriu, super underutilized. Super underutilized. He's such a fascinating guy. The fact that he has the core smashing ability that like really never gets put anywhere besides as a plot device, I really don't. He's more memorable to me than Gong Yixiao, but only barely. I really, it makes me sad. He could have been really, really expanded upon because he clearly knew like Zhang Cheng's mother, and like they could have given him a little bit more of a push, and the Untamed tried to do that, but like it still wasn't enough. Even with the Untamed, I would only put him in C tier. And again, I don't know that he's supposed to be anything more than that, but it is interesting that she gave him these like really cool qualities and then never expanded on it. So it's a shame. So much potential, dude. Okay. Xiaoxing Chen. Xiaoxing Chen! Sorry, I just hear Wang Haoshen shouting it. Oh, I guess it's not him, it's whoever his voice actor was. Anyway. I think this guy is super interesting. I think that he's a character you can think more about and be like, huh. Because I think that his dichotomy with Shui Yang and how he is the white to the black, he is the good to the evil, but he is also as extreme on the scale as Shui Yang is on his. And so it kind of blends into this like, Shui Yang's crazy, right? We all know he's crazy. Xiaoxing Chen is also not normal. That guy is not normal, but in a completely opposite way, which is really fascinating. And the fact that he's able to accomplish that in such a small amount of time in the novel, I think is really impressive. I'm actually going to put him in A tier. A low A? I do think that he's a better character than, better written character than He Shen. I think that like the implications of him in the novel are really interesting, and then the Untamed pushes him to an S, honestly. Like they really made him even more interesting, but yeah. I'd say the gap between these guys is pretty small, but there's just a little bit more here, in my opinion. And the fact that he only accomplishes that in such a short amount of time kind of shows like how impactful he was. And I think that's going to be true of the Yi City boys in general, although some we'll get to. Okay, Mo Shanyu, he's a plot device. He barely has a character. I'm going to put him here. Again, I sometimes forget he exists as anything other than the plot device. He did have some background character stuff, and like I again love what the fandom does with him. and all the like what ifs, but he doesn't really do anything other than at the very beginning of the novel. And then there's some things hinted about him. He is more so a literary device to push Wei Wuxian into considering the fact that he's gay. And by gay, I mean overarching LGBTQ queer. Huaisang. He goes up here. Easy. Easy S. First of all, happy birthday, King. Second of all, what a fucking fascinating character, right? And I love that the novel never even completely confirms that it's him that's masterminding everything, but he totally did. You know he did. And I love the trope of like, I'm just a little guy, oh my god, I'm just a little guy. And then being like heinous as fuck. But he's not even heinous. He was kind of in the right in some ways, right? He's like, I want to stay out of he's so fascinating. And like, I'm gonna stay out of this. The 20th is his birthday. So it's already his birthday in China. But his like, I want to stay out of this until it affects him. And then his brother dies and he's like, okay, I'm making this about me and what I want now. And then he does, and he manipulates the entire thing. S tier. What a super interesting character. But he's not necessarily a villain. He's just the mastermind, right? Because he wasn't necessarily completely against a villain, an antagonist rather. He wasn't an antagonist because an antagonist would go against the protagonist. But in ways, he's working alongside Wei Wuxian. But can he really be said to be working alongside him if he's manipulating him? Like, it's a really interesting writing going on with him. Mingjue. The silliest songs come on at the funniest time on this playlist. I'm really glad I chose this one. Mingjue. However, I think he's missing some stuff, honestly. It isn't his fault that he's dead for most of the story. And I do think it's interesting that he has this, like, deep drive to, like, for, like, justice, but in the most strict sense of the word. I really would have liked to have seen more from him. He's gonna be a low B for me. And, like, honestly, these two, the gap is not very big between them. He's just missing some stuff. Would have loved to have seen more with him, and the venerated trio. Okay. Songlan, I know I just said that the city boys are pretty well written. I think Songlan is also underutilized. I think he is really interesting in that he also is that, like, more extreme side of the justice. And then also, like, does not know how to talk about his emotions. And so he's just, like, he's interesting, but I do feel that he also kind of serves as a plot device. So I'm going to put him actually pretty much even with Ah Ching. Maybe a little less, because I think that she gets more characterization than he does. In fact, is Banyue? I think Banyue is maybe a little bit better written. He's mostly narrative device, I would say. We really, like, we don't really get that many chances to know him outside of him being a fierce corpse, unfortunately. And that's a shame. But I don't think we needed to, necessarily, to make his impact, like, I don't know. He's fine. He's fine. I wanted more from him, I think. Again, the Untamed version of the City arc pushes the characters up. Not him to S tier, but, like, it pushes them, I think, all up one rank. So, yeah. It is what it is for the novels. Wei Wuxian, another S tier. Is he better than Huaisang? I think so. I think Huaisang is really well written, but I think Wei Wuxian he's a protagonist, so of course he's going to have really good writing because the focus is on him more. But I think that Wei Wuxian is such a prime example of like a protagonist who feels so simultaneously untouchable and so human. I think she really did strike a really good balance with that for him. And the journeys that he has to go on for healing are written in such a good way. The way that both he and another character interact with each other, and how he is, how do I even put this into words? Like, it's almost so impactful that it's hard to like speak on. But he just feels like a guy you want to root for, but also a very flawed individual. And a guy that you're like, I don't know, does he deserve, like, you think, oh, he deserves the happy ending, but like, when you think about it, he did some terrible shit, right? And so I think that Grandmaster in general has a really interesting take on morality that a lot of people didn't catch, I think, when they were reading this. I just think that he's super impactful. He's very interesting. He's also hilarious. He's also like super funny. You know, he goes through all this traumatic shit and then is like the funniest guy you ever met. And then also just like so emotionally constipated that you're like, I want to, oh, Wei Wuxian, I want to push you off a roof. Not that you die, but just like push you off. Yeah, he's great. But again, I would not say the gap between these two is super, super big. Wen Ning. Oh, Wen Ning. I'm thinking. Wen Ning, I don't think he gets enough attention in the books. He is somewhat treated like a literary device, a plot pusher, like driving the plot forward. I feel that he kind of lacks his own characterization at times. He's like, he really puts the support in supporting character for me. So I'm gonna put him, oh, he really straddles B and C. I'm giving him B, like the lowest B for now, because he did have to put up with so much third wielding shit. He does deserve a few points. I know that's me being subjective again, but like, I'm doing my best. I'm really doing my best out here. Wen Qing, also, she's a supporting character. I do think of the girls in Grandmaster, she's the most interesting. And perhaps the most well-written. I think that she has a lot of impact for how she... Yeah, I do think Ming Jue is a little more interesting than Wen Ning. But I do think she's above him. She's missing some stuff, but the time that she was there for was very impactful. And I think that there's more attention put on Wen Ning's time because he gets, you know, revived. Or whatever. He becomes a fierce corpse and, like, comes back, right? But she's dead, right? And so I think we forget how much of an impact that she had on Wei Wuxian. And, I really think... Shut up. That she she just has such an impact for the, yeah, she just is impactful for a supporting character, but I don't think that she did that much. When Rohan, another low effort character, I'm honestly gonna put him I'm gonna put him here because he didn't do anything. He most of the things that we know about him, we just like heard about, right? He didn't really do that much except like be a villain, and he was not very interesting as a villain, right? He was like typical antagonist, like, oh, I'm gonna kill everybody type thing. He's not that interesting. The Jean, oh, is he on here actually? Oh, I don't think he is. The Jin Guangxiao. Jin Guangxiao. He is way more interesting than Rohan. But he's not on here. So, sucks to suck, I guess. That's really surprising he's not on here. If he had just kept it in his pants, then there wouldn't be a story, I guess. But okay. Anyway, Zhang Cheng, easy S. Easy S. One of the best characters in the entire trilogy of novels that she's written. And people are going to hate this. I know, because I see those haters. But I have to say, Zhang Cheng is so well represented as a he's so well written as a representative of what it is like to grieve. Because, you know, the girlies in on Twitter and TikTok, they learned something from the boomer generation about the fucking stages of grief. It's not, those aren't real. Those aren't real. They aren't real. It's capitalism, okay? You can get stuck in the anger part of grief for a long time and let it consume you if you do not have the mental and emotional support to get out of it. And that is exactly what happens to him, and that's why people hate him. But if you were in his situation where everyone around you dies, there wouldn't be so many haters if he wasn't interesting. True. If you were in his position, put yourself in his position for a second, okay? Your parents hate you. Both your dad and your mom like one of your other siblings more. Your mom kind of treats you okay, sometimes. But your dad doesn't like you. And he likes your adopted sibling better. Your adopted sibling who's like a week older than you. Okay? You grow up, you're gonna be the sect leader one day. And you grow up and you're always being overshadowed by your siblings. Who's like this genius. Right? And you have another sibling, a sister, but even she likes him better. Okay? No one in the family likes you best. Okay. So then, but you still love them, right? Then your family, they don't just die. They get massacred. And not just your family, everyone who lived in your town. All your subjects fucking die. And they don't just die, they are killed by other people. Brutally. Your house is burned down, and you escape with your siblings. Okay? You love your siblings more than anything in the fucking world. And they're the only thing you have left. And then one of them is about to get himself into trouble. So you sacrifice part of yourself to save him. And then it puts you into fucking misery. So you go through a depressive state. You get fixed, thankfully. But then the sibling that you went all that trouble to help goes fucking missing. So you think he's dead. You think you've lost another person. He comes back and he's emo as fuck. And he's acting up. He's making you feel disrespected as the sect leader. And you're like a young sect leader. So no one's taking you seriously anyway. And your sister, on top of this, your sister's engaged to a prick. And then your sister finally gets married. Your brother gets fucking sent... This fucking music. It needs to be a different song. No Saria's theme, please. No, what the fuck? No recommended for me. Just repeat this fucking playlist. What are we doing out here? You guys are so weird on this stupid app. Where was I? Yes, so your brother gets, you try to help him, But he isolates himself from the rest of the world, including you, won't tell you what's wrong, is acting a fool. And then everyone's like, well, we need to get rid of this guy. And we did get, he like killed all these people and he's keeping all these people safe. We need to get rid of them. We need to like genocide these people. And these people are related to the people who killed your entire family in town. And then your brother, who you have this strained relationship with, is responsible for your sister dying right in front of you. And then your brother also dies. How's he supposed to be normal? So how do you think someone would turn out? Put yourself in that situation. You'd be angry. You'd be angry at the fucking world. You'd be pissed. And you'd be pissed at your brother who's acting a fool because he was supposed to stand by you. Right? And all you have, the only remnant you have of the joyous times is your sister's son, who has no parents, by the way. Like, Wei Wuxian is responsible for bringing so much joy, but also so much pain and heartbreak and sorrow and angst and just terror to Jiang Cheng's life. Of course he's like that. But people hate that shit. And you know what? He hates it too. And that's how she wrote him. And it's so good. He feels real. He feels so real. Like, sorry that I just went on a fucking tirade. But he's such an important representation of how grief is not pretty. So many people in fics, we're so spoiled by fics, I think. And this is a serious conversation. We're so spoiled by fics, making grief look pretty as a narrative device. And sometimes that's totally, totally fine. But the reality of grief is so much uglier. And the fact that MXTX did that and did not hold back with Jiang Cheng is so important. Easiest here. You're so right, though. Thank you. Someone's gonna watch this and get really angry. I'm sorry. I hate that I'm right. It's why he's my favorite. Like, to be subjective for a second, that's why he's my favorite, is because he's the best written character. And it's not that he's the only well-written character, clearly. Not even in his book. But he's, like... I can't. We have to move on. Jing Wang Yao, also S tier. I'm gonna put him... Oh god, this is hard. I think that he and Huaisong are truly the same, like, level. But Jing Guang Yao is fascinating. Fascinating guy. Fascinating character. His whole, like, it wasn't my fault, like, I had no choice. We see a lot of that in today's society, actually, don't we? Well, we can't help but do this. We can't help but give in to this. We can't help but give in to this system. Isn't that terrifying when someone does that? Isn't that just the result? Like, isn't our society just the result of people doing that over and over again and giving in to these things that they actually do have control over? But he truly does not believe that he has control over it. He's, like, so unwell and was raised in such a way that he truly believes that he does not have control over it. He's so sick in the head. Really interesting character. I remember when I got back into this fandom, I was like, whatever happened to Wei Wuxian? And so I read the wiki before I read the books and finished the Donghua and everything. And I was like, Jing Wang Yao became the antagonist. Who the fuck is this hat guy? And then I was like, he's really good. Shout out to the fucking live action actor in the Untamed, though. That guy's so good. Okay, Jinling. I'm thinking. Okay. I do think that Jinling is another really good and accurate representation of grief. Especially as a child. He just wants his parents He's such a 15-year-old, right? He's a really good supporting character. I think that what he does really well. So I'm actually going to put him above Xiao Xingchen, but below Feng Xin. I think the gap between these two is pretty big, but the gap between these two is maybe smaller. Not small, but smaller. I do think that he's a really good character, though. I was not expecting to get so attached to him, also. I was actually not really expecting him to really have a lot to say. And I'm really sad that, like, the Donghua kind of takes away those interactions that he has with Wei Wuxian, and he's like, if you're gonna be with Lan Zhan, like, you have to treat him right. Like, you know, be good. And, like, those, because he thinks he's talking to Mo Shanyu, and, like, those moments, I really appreciate his character development. I think he's, for a 15-year-old, that's a really interesting character. 15-year-olds are hard to rate as 15-year-olds. There are a lot of, think about, like, anime, right? Think about Eren Yeager and, like, the kids in Attack on Titan who are all around 15. And think about their writing versus, like, this. I'm not necessarily saying that the writing is better or worse. That's not what I'm trying to compare. I'm comparing the fact that, like, those kids don't feel 15. He does. Most of those kids don't feel 15. Sasha and Connie, I would say, maybe. But same, I was not expecting to get so attached to him, right? Okay, Junwo. I think he's really interesting, but I do feel that some parts of his character at the end are a little, like, the Transformers battle at the end of Heaven Official's Blessing, if I can be honest, is super weird. It's super weird. And he feels so, like, unbeatable boss at the end of a JRPG with, like, 4 forms. He reminds me, like, his like, undefeatableness reminds me of Seymour from Final Fantasy X. But I do think he's a really interesting character. I did not see the twist coming. I knew he wasn't good. Did not see the twist coming. It's so silly. I am gonna put him above Xiao Xingchen, but below Jinling. I think the gap between these two is quite small. Okay, Yan Li, my beloved. This poor girl. I really think that she got shafted. Thank you to the Untamed for fixing her and making her more. Lulu Shen, you are truly the hero of our ages. She really gets shafted. I think she's a really good supporting character, but she's really one-dimensional. Like, again, puts the support and supporting character kind of like Wen Ning, but I think less interesting. I am going to put her above Aching, but in C. High C. I think that she doesn't really say that many interesting things. She's mostly used as a literary device. She does have, and all of the girlies do in this book, have a very independent spirit. Like when she stands up to the Jin clan for Wei Wuxian on the mountain, but I don't think it's enough to push her up into the B tier. Yeah. And I would give her husband a similar ranking. I think that he maybe even goes like right here, maybe right here. I think that he's just kind of mid in his writing. And again, he's not really supposed to be this paragon of like anything. I'm not meaning to make all these even, by the way. He just doesn't do a whole lot plot-wise. He's like a supporting character to the supporting character. So I am going to put him at the end of the C tier because he's just not doing a whole lot. I would have loved to have seen more development from him. other than just like becoming wife guy. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of that time because the focus is on Wei Wuxian and the other more main characters, which is fine. But the result of that is that he is down here in C. I think also it's important to note here, right, that like me putting these characters in like D tier or C tier doesn't mean that they're bad, right? It's just that like their purpose as a character was very minimal and like not a lot really happened with them. Versus like these characters up here put their pussies into she put her pussy into writing these. Sorry. She really put a lot of thought and effort into writing these characters. And I think the reason Xiaoxing Chen ends up being high up here too is that she was originally planning for Yi City to be its own story. Anyway, moving on from Grandmaster for now. My boy. The boys. Binga. Binga, I think, is a good character. We really don't see a lot of him. He's mostly just mentioned. But when we do see him, it is so interesting that he immediately is like, I love this man. A whole lifetime of fucking women, and he meets Shen Qingqiu, Shen Qingqiu, and is like, you're different. Someone who treats me well, right? And that really gets to the heart of the matter of like who Binghe is in every universe. And that is just like someone who wants to be taken care of and loved so deeply, right? So Binga, I'm gonna put him, this is hard because he's not around that much physically. Do I think he's better than no. Do I think he's better than White No Face? Yes. Only barely. I think these are about the same for me. Binghe. Ugh. I have a manju of him right next to me. What a well-written fucking character. And again, he's got the haters. But you know what? He's S tier. I gotta think. Do I think he's a better written character than Jin Guangyao? Oh no. I have to think. Give me a second. Jin Guangyao does so much in the background and is so fascinating. I think that they're very similar characters in a way. Jin Guangyao wanted to be loved. Luo Binghe wants to be loved and will do anything for it and is so mentally ill, but I do think that Jin Guangyao is a little bit more well-written. But I think Luo Binghe is an amazingly written character. Again, he has haters because people don't know how to read. A lot of the stuff with him, like, of course he's acting a fool. Of course he's acting a fool. This kid who had nothing, and he's got severe attachment issues. And you know, I'm gonna be so honest. There's a lot of people who headcanon Luo Binghe as having borderline, and I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong. I actually don't really have an opinion on that. But I do think that if you say that he has borderline and then leave it at that, I do think that's doing a disservice to Shen Qingqiu's effect on him by how much he got gaslit by that man. It takes away some of his responsibility, I think. And I don't think that's fair to Binghe's character. But I genuinely really think that Luo Binghe is a very well-written character. Especially considering she wrote this book in high school. Girl, what? She was like studying for fucking entrance exams and was like, yeah, here's my little meow meows. And popped off. Good for her. He's fascinating. He's like, again, such a good representation of what happens when you don't treat a child well and they don't get love growing up, and then you push them into a box that you think that they're supposed to be in and then get surprised when they act upon that. Like, yeah. I do think, though, what puts him below Jin Guangyao for me is that his existence and character is so deeply tied to Shen Qingqiu that it does diminish him just a little bit. For being in high school, all of Scum Villain is insanely good. True. Okay, Jingyi, this is hard, but he's not that exciting of a character. I think that he's better than Wenju Liu, but I think that he's probably gonna pop right here, maybe. He's funny. He's a comedic relief character, right? And I think that he does a really good job of being comedic relief. He's hilarious. The part with the chicken, him and Sidre's like dynamic is really, really good. And I love this kid, but I just don't think he's like that important of a character or that particularly like interesting or well written. He's just like some guy, which I appreciate a lot, but that's not what we're doing right now. Oh, my girl, Liu Mingyan. Underutilized, but I think that's the point of Scum Villain. I think all the female characters in Scum Villain are gonna end up being very low ranks purely because that was kind of the point, right? It's not like the original book, Proud Immortal Demon's Way, like, or Demon Way, whatever, plays into the trope of like women not having any real roles or autonomy or character. And so I think that Scum Villain carries some of that trope over, but then like subverts it quietly. Because it's still not about her. It's not about any of the girls, right? It's a gay romance story. It's also written by like a 17-year-old or whatever the fuck. But she's interesting. I do think, though, I would put her... Sorry, I'm pulling back my hair. She doesn't do a lot. So I'm actually going to put her, like, in C tier. The reveal of her being the fic writer is really funny, but it doesn't really do anything. It's, like, again, just, like, comedic. So I would put her here. Actually, I'm going to put her there. Yeah, sorry, Queen. And, it sucks. But there's a similar problem with your brother. Unfortunately, as much as I love him personally, and I love a meathead jock boy, I think he's also very underutilized. But again, like, the focus isn't about him. I feel very sorry for him. But again, this is the objective round. He's very... I think that the extra scene where he is with Shen Qingqiu and they go to the succubi's lair and they meet with the fortune teller and everything. I think that that whole scene, that whole chapter, does way more for his character than the entire novel did. So I think that he is fun. I think that him always bringing the fan back and this kind of silent but like stupid devotion to Shen Qingqiu is really sweet. He genuinely cares a lot. And I love that every time that he sees something he doesn't like, he goes, "Hey!" I think that's really funny. But I do think that he's not that strongly written of a character. Do I think that he's better than Wen Ning? I'm gonna put him here. I don't think he's better than Wen Qing as a character, but he is better than Mingjue. Mingjue does not have a lot going on. In fact, I'm gonna do something crazy. There we go. The longer I think about it, I think Wen Ning is a better character than Mingjue. Just because he's, like, around a little more. him fighting Bing He every day for 5 years straight is so fascinating to me personally. Right? But like, again, part of that is subjective, I think. Because when I think about like what purpose he's supposed to serve as like a secondary character, he's also kind of like comic relief. I feel like I'm really curious to see what he would have turned out to be if she had written him later. Like written Scum Villain later. What would he be like? Because I think some of what he suffers from is just like her not being an experienced writer and like not knowing what she was doing, which fair. Long Qianqiu. That's not how you spell his name. This kid, I'm gonna put him nearer where Banyue was, because again, he really just kind of serves to plump up the backstory for Xielian. He's truly a support character. He is a character, like, he's fine, he's funny, where he, like, falls asleep at the meeting, and then, like, you know, he finds out about his parents being killed, and he's, like, very angry about it. But when you're reading Heaven Official's Blessing, or really any of the MXTX books, and she talks about grief, a character with a lot of grief, and, he's just not as strong of a character as like Jinling or even Heshuan. Heshuan's like revenge, right? Like consumes him, and that makes him more interesting, right? But Lang Qianqiu, he doesn't really have a lot going on. And I just genuinely think that Banyue is a little bit more interestingly written. It's not that I think it's more that he's interesting to think about and not necessarily well written. Yeah, that's fair. But we're going for well written, I guess. Sidre. This is a hard one. This is really, really difficult, actually. Okay. He could have been just a plot device, right? Like the child. You know? But he ends up having his own character. And I really like how he ends up not only having his own character, but in like the relationship that he has with like Wen Ning. And like I don't know. I think that he's probably a B as well. I'm thinking. Because the thing is, he has that reaction, like he learns who he is, and then he has that reaction, but the reaction, he doesn't really get to have it on his own. It's more that he gets to have he has that moment like with other people still, right? So I think I'm a thumb here. That makes the most sense to me. Yeah, okay. Han Guangjun! Lan Zhan. He's really good, I think. So with Jiang Cheng, right? I went on that whole tirade about grief and the stages of grief not being real, and that how he gets stuck in anger. This is a man who gets stuck in the depression part, right? And how he just, you know, in everything else that this man does, he is very, like, forward-facing. You know, he gets this name like as the light bringer. He's always there. He's known as the person who is always there in times of need. And then in his own personal hell of his mind, where his feelings are, it is like frozen. It is frozen for 13 years. And the way that does something to him, I think that that's really interesting. I think it's also hilarious that he's like so gentlemanly and then will do something as crazy as fuck his husband in like the bushes. The dichotomy of man, for real. This is not final. I'm just thinking. I do think that he's a better character than Bing He, like, written. But again, I think that I would be really curious to see how she would write someone like Bing He now. Because I think that some of the shit with Bing He might be better if she were a more experienced writer. Also, these are some really strong characters that she wrote. And Lanjan up against them is like, Lanjan on his own, Lang Bangji on his own is awesome. Up against all these really, really fascinating and well-written characters, he's maybe a little less complex. In fact, do I think he's better than Bing He written? Do I think he's written better? I'm thinking. Oh, this is really hard. Okay, let's put it this way. Of the 3 male leads, do I think Lanjan is the best written one? Yes, I do. Okay. That's where he'll stay then. Yeah, I think this is the correct order I would put these guys in. Okay, Lingwen. She's awesome. Probably maybe the best written female character that MXTX has ever had. Awesome. The part at the end of, I think, volume 5, is it? Volume 4 or 5. At the end, where he's like, Shaolin's like, oh my god, Lingwen took the Brocade Immortal, and she's the one who did it. And then he immediately is like, Lingwen! Someone took the Brocade Immortal, and she's like, this is awkward. And then he's like, oops, sorry. And then they hang up. So that's a really funny writing moment. I remember reading that and being like, yeah, her humor's gotten really good, huh? I think that she's super fascinating. In fact, I really wanted more of her. I think I'm gonna put her up here because I think that do I think she's more interesting than White No Face? I do. She's way more fascinating. She's an office worker lady. You see her, and she's very like minding her own business, keeping to herself. But then you find out, it's very slowly introduced that she's friends with these 2 guys, and that together that they are known as the 3 tumors. And you're thinking, okay, well, we know Pei Ming's an asshole, and Shi Wudu sounds a little bit out there. What's her deal? Why is she hanging out with these guys? Is she fucking one of them? Like, what's going on? And then you find out that she was like, yeah, I committed some crimes. What of it? I don't get paid enough. And then you go, I do support women's wrongs. And then she gets her job back. She's fascinating. She's really fast. I would love to have read a side story, like an extra chapter with the 3 tumors. Would have loved that. I think that she's the most interesting of the 3 of them as well. She's fire. Do I think she's better written than Junmu? I don't think so. I think they're about even. He's maybe slightly better just because of his whole backstory. She doesn't have quite the complex backstory that he has, and his backstory, not only is it complex, but it is very like emotionally driven, and it connects more to the overarching plot. So I do think that he's better written for that reason alone. But otherwise, they're really close. All right. Hi, Sojun. Hi. Oh my god. Hi. I saw such a sad comic about him today. Okay, but as a character, objectively, this is hard because he's in a really difficult place as the sect leader. Um, I think that he is a little bit underutilized. Um, in some sad ways. I think that he, um, a lot of people give him shit for that whole. First of all, the fact that he gives 3 different shovel talks to Wei Wuxian is the funniest shit in the world. But second of all, and more importantly, a lot of people give him shit for saying that, like, you were Lan Zhan's, like, my brother's only mistake. That whole thing. And I'd like to say, first of all, that you're not, if that immediately makes you angry, you're not reading it from his point of view at that moment, because, like, he does not see, he's the sect leader. It's a similar thing with Zhang Cheng, right? Or he's like, my brother was always my ally, and now that he's like going against these things that we've been taught for forever, and like Lan Xichen is being isolated and having to make these very, very difficult decisions, right? I think that he's put in a lot of really hard places. That being said, I do think that he gets shafted a little bit as far as, like, for instance, like how his emotions were affected when all the shit was going down during oh my god, the siege of, like, Gusu, and then Nightless City, like those things. I feel like we didn't get enough feedback. So I do think that he is A tier, but I think he's gonna go here. Unfortunately, I don't think that he gets any further. I genuinely think Jinling is a better written character overall. And that's not to say that he is a bad character by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's great. All the characters in A tier are great characters. I just think that he does get shafted. But I do really like him. Again, put into a lot of interesting situations. And also, he's up against all these, again, really strong characters. It focuses in on him. But for what he does really well. Longing past who? Who? I know who. But, like, okay. I guess they mean the older man. But, like, he really left, you know, I get why he was upset and, like, everything happening, and, like, he, you know, there's, like, the war and with the people and everything. He really did not emotionally charge anything. Like, he really was just kind of a plot device. And I'm gonna say pretty much the same thing for Longing of the Present, but even less so. Like, both of them are very, very much so plot devices. I was really expecting such a cool reveal for him, and it was nothing. It was nothing. And I was like, oh. A plot device. The Brigade Immortal is literally a better character than either of the iterations of them. Because this is, I assume, is referring to the father. And then this is the child. Or teenager, or whatever you want to call him, that we meet on the mountain at the beginning. Mulby June. Oh, hello. There we go. He's so nothing that he got fully removed from the... No way! He got fully removed from the revised version? Is that true? That's crazy. Okay. We're gonna take a little bit of a break so I can get my water refilled and sit with that for a second. So I'll be back in like 2 minutes. But holy shit, that's crazy. Okay, I'll. Oh my god, he did. That's so funny. I'll be right back. Wow. Okay. We're back. I got water. We're in this. Okay. Oh, we haven't seen anything about the dad. Okay, interesting. Wow, that's so funny. Mobe Jun. This is a tough one, actually. Um, he doesn't have a lot going on. A lot of the stuff that is for Mobe Jun is very much so like read between the lines. I very much see him as kind of a prototype to He Xuan. Um, he doesn't have a lot of character development at all until the airplane extras. When he gets to the airplane extras, he's really good. I'm gonna put him. This is rough. Do I think he's better? Okay, because he's somewhere in this middle section here. Okay. Do I think he's better here than her? Yes, he's less of a plot device. I feel like anybody who gets into this one gets used as a plot device a little bit more than anyone up here. Plot device still. He feels more like his own character than a plot device. these two. I don't know which one is technically a better character. Let's think. I'm putting him here for now, so I just don't have to hold the mouse down. You know, I am going to leave him here. He does get used as a plot device to bring Bing He into the abyss. Whereas Liu Qingge never ends up getting used as a plot device, really. If he does, it's much more minor. So I think that's fair. That's really hard, though. Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, I'd say they're about even. The good qualities about their writing are different from each other, so they're very hard to compare. But I'm going to put this for now. I may swap them. We'll see how I feel. Meng Mo, super underrated guy, but I would say mostly plot device. The way the fandom treats this man is the funniest shit I've ever seen. But I'd have to put him, like... I do think that he does more than Ming Yan, because he does bring Shen Qingqiu, like, into the dream realm and, like, do stuff. So I would put him maybe here. It's so hard with Scum Villain because he was a device for the... Exactly. That's what I'm saying with the Scum Villain characters. Like, they're extra hard to figure out because we have to consider, like, the intended writing for Proud Immortal Demon Way and then the actual writing for Scum Villain, not just Scum Villain. Because one is intertwined with the other. Mu Qingfan, he needed more. Right. Liu Qingge isn't a plot device only because he was supposed to be dead. I completely agree. That's what makes these two so hard to compare. Mu Qingfan, he's alright. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't get used as a plot device so much, but he doesn't really do that much. In fact, I want to be honest, he doesn't really have that much of a character. The fandom writes him in the funniest ways, but I'm going to put him... This is painful. I'm sorry, King. I ship you with Liu Qingge so much nowadays, but, like, he doesn't really have that much going on. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say similar for Mian Mian. She doesn't have a lot going on. Her one big moment is that she stands up for Wei Wuxian in front of all the men and then defects from her clan. But doesn't she also end up starting her own sect? I don't remember. Let's look it up. I don't want to say something wrong and then misjudge her and then have the internet yell at me if this happens to, like, get someone's attention. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully this is just fun. Mian. No. I misspelled. Mian. Mian. Oh, I forgot her surname was also Luo. Yeah, the fandom is definitely give both a lot more than they had in canon. Yeah, because she's still a cultivator. Okay. Oh, you know, she does do the whole thing. She takes after, she helps the common people with troublesome ghosts, and, like, kind of, like, takes after, she's trying to follow the, like, Han Guangjun thing, and then, she marries a non-cultivator man. Yeah, you know what? She's mostly a plot device, but she does have her moments, so I will put her... she's an independent cultivator, yeah. I think I read a fic where someone had her start her own sect, which I really like the idea of. I will put her here just because she is less of a plot device than him. He doesn't have any characterization really, but she has some. Mooching. Am I about to make people so angry? I'm thinking. I'm putting him here for now, but I'm thinking. So the thing with mooching is that he is so complex. Does he reach the complexity of Wei Wuxian, Huaisang, Jin Guangyao? That's the question. I don't think so. I don't think he does not reach the complexity of Wei Wuxian. He doesn't. Does he reach the complexity of Huaisang or Jin Guangyao? Jin Guangyao. No. Does he reach the complexity of Lan Wangji? This is hard. I'm literally sitting on my couch with my hands, like my eyes are shoved into the palms of my hands, trying to think. Is mooching... Okay, let's break down mooching first. Whoa. The light blinds me. Mooching. I've always appreciated his writing. In this second read through, it's actually making me like want to cry because he is so like, how do I describe him? He is someone that, again, like Jiang Cheng, like Wei Wuxian, he feels very real. In that he, at the beginning of like the timeline, at the beginning of the timeline, he is so reserved because he comes from nothing, right? And then he's brought into like this life of opulence and no one likes him because he keeps to himself. He's not personable like Feng Xing or Xie Lian. He's not personable. He keeps to himself because he doesn't want to cause any problems, but he gets punished for that, right? And then when he does stand up, he'll get punished. He's kind of like damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, no matter what he does. The whole fucking story. But he genuinely really cares about what Xie Lian and even Feng Xing, what they think of him. But the way that he has to like reserve himself, he has to pull everything in, like, and then when he leaves the trio to take care of his mother and then he ascends, right? What a complex moment that is in the story for Xie Lian, who's been going through just shit, just an absolute shit show of a life. And then also for Mu Qing, who finally he's in a place of safety for the first time in his life, but it is without the two people that he cares about besides his mother. And when he does try to like help Xie Lian rejects him immediately. He throws mud at him. And then he's like, okay. And so then he tries to make it up in another way. And then Feng Xing's like, oh my god, hi. Oh my god, I missed you. And then he's like, yay, look, Xie Lian, he's back. He's here to help us. And then Xie Lian's like, he was a bully. Well, he wasn't a bully, but he didn't help me when there were bullies. And so that makes him just as bad as a bully, which is this way of thinking that actually doesn't suit Xie Lian normally, but because he's in such a depressive episode, it makes sense that he would think that way, and Muqing gets the brunt of it, right? And then Feng Xin's like, hey, what the fuck? And kicks him out. And then that shatters their friendship, right? And so for him, then when Xie Lian finally ascends again for the third time, and like the whole actual plot starts happening, and just the way that he's holding himself back the whole time and trying so hard to not be who he really is. He's sharp-tongued, he's rolling his eyes, he's crossing his arms, says coldly, has been underlined in like a million times. In the beginning, it was says softly, it's soft, I don't want to step on anybody. But then when he would get angry, he would get cold. And now he's angry and cold all the time because he knows it's how people expect him to be, right? I think I am going to have to put him above Lanjan. Barely. But he's easy S again. Very, very fascinating character that people hate on. And it makes me sad that they hate him because I do think that there are so many people like this that exist in real life, particularly in Asian countries, I think, or really any community globally where you are expected to act in this more like giving and extroverted way. Yeah! But you're this giving an extroverted way, and it does not suit your personality. And like no matter what you do, you cannot fit into that status quo. And so you just decide to go against it because that's what everybody expects anyway. And it's like you're not actually a bad person or anything. It is just what people are expecting from you, and it's easier emotionally to deal with that than it is to deal with the fact that people do not accept you. I think that his story really shows like such an interesting perspective of acceptance of other people. And so it makes me sad when people just automatically hate him and think he's terrible for the things he did. All three of the main boys did, the Shanla trio did terrible things. They all fucked up in various ways. But he, like, the reasons that he fucked up are so different and so based on self-preservation for reasons that like you would understand if you were in his position. And so it just shows to me, I think you have to have a lot of empathy to be able to understand a person like Muqing, let alone a character like Muqing, right? Anyway, Ning Ying Ying, bless your heart. I love what the fandom does with you, but you don't really do a lot. You're also a very plot device. She's meant to be a plot device. So she does do that part well. She has a little bit of character to her, but again, I really think that she's more down here. I still think that she does more than Rohan. He doesn't really do anything. Pei Ming. Pei Ming's an interesting one. Again, another one of the three tumors. I started out thinking this guy was the biggest piece of shit in the world, and he kind of is, right? His character development is rock solid. I'm really looking forward to re-experiencing him, or his like journey and character development. And can I be honest about ships for a second? I really, like, people ship him with the Rainmaster all the time, but I actually don't ship them. I really like the idea of him finally falling for a woman, but she doesn't like him back. I think that would be the perfect character arc, like, come full circle for him. But, you know, he's a womanizer, he's a terrible person, but he starts to, like, get shit together. I think he's really interesting. He's definitely at least a B tier. I might put him here. I don't think that He Xuan is less interesting than him. I think that He Xuan really, really straddles this line. He might get bumped up to low A. But he's, like, very solid. And again, at the beginning, you're kind of supposed to hate him, right? He's one of the three tumors. He's just kind of a piece of shit. Yeah. Pei Xiu. I'm gonna say he's also kind of mid with Banyue. I think that he really doesn't do a whole lot. That beginning part where he shows up and then you find out that he was the guide in the Banyue like temple, or not temple but the desert when they're in the north. I think that is such an interesting little twist. He really does not do a lot after that. He does show up in the arc where they're going up to Mount Tonglu, but he doesn't really do anything after that. He's just kind of there. I actually think that Banyue is more interesting than him, and I do think that Chen Qiu is more interesting than him. I think that Songlan is more interesting than him. I think that Jingyi is more interesting than him, and more well written. I think that, though, I will say he's gonna go here. I feel that he feels a little bit plot device-y more than Jingyi does. That's gonna make people mad too, probably. Again, love what the fandom does with that guy. I feel like a lot of the characters down here, like the fandom was like, I see the potential, the untapped potential, and then just went nutso, and I love that. Chi Ching Chi, God, I wish there was more of her in both fandom and the book. She's so, for the times that she does show up, she's like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you? And yells at Shen Qingqiu and Liu Qingge. She's yelling at everybody all the time. She's just like fierce lesbian, like that. She really gives off like mom lesbian. Do you know what I mean? Not like actual mom, but like lesbian who is like the mother of other lesbians, where she's like the older sister, One-san, JJ. Like her JJ vibes are off the fucking charts. Unfortunately, she does not do anything. She does even less than Mu Qingfang does. Oh, this hurts. Oh, this feels painful. I'm gonna have to probably put her here. Does she do anything besides show up and be funny? I think it's gonna have to be there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna move some things around here. Hold on. Gong Yixia does more than her. Well, Shen Yu doesn't really do anything though. So I think he's gonna have to get moved down. Because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. Okay. Okay. This guy, Chun Yi-jun. I have to be objective. What do I think of him as a character? I don't think he does a lot. People love this guy. I get it. But he doesn't do that much again. He does. Okay, let's just start comparing him to other people, and then I'll talk about it. Do I think that he does more than him? Yes. Is he more than Banyue? Yes. Does he do more than Ah-Cheng? For the overarching story, does he do more than Ah-Cheng in her story? Yes. Does he do more for the overarching story than Yan Li? No. I really think that he's another kind of like underutilized. He's kind of tropey. He falls into a trope and really does not do a whole lot. He has very funny moments, and I do consider him in the category of like comedic relief again, but he doesn't really do that much. His backstory was just not engaging for me personally. But also just from a writer's point of view, she stretched out the backstory for him and Yunyu for quite a while. And when you stretch something out that long, one of the things that you can run into as a problem is people losing focus and motivation to care about the characters because you've been on that for so long, right? The only way for that to really be effective is if you put a twist at the end of it to be like, whoa. Right? And that's why like Ling Wen's whole thing is so successful, right? Is because you're on this thing and it goes on and on of like, she's one of the three tumors, she's one of the three tumors, she's one of the three tumors. Okay, why? We don't know. And then you find out she did some heinous fucking shit and you're like, ayo? But you were my helper at the beginning. What do you mean? But like this, like the beef that he has with Yinyu, well, he doesn't have the beef. Yinyu has the beef with him. But like that beef is so disconnected from the overarching story. I don't think either of them are very good characters, but he's better than Yinyu, I will say. Guzi is the baby, Qirong's child. He doesn't really do a lot, but he does have a really great moment at the end where he's like, you know, my real dad treated me like shit, and this guy actually treated me better than my real dad did, and I'm gonna try to find a way to like bring him back. And like, you know, this kid's gonna grow up to be a fucking menace as a result of that. I think that's really interesting, but I also think that he's just kind of like not got a lot going on. He's just a kid. He's some little kid that gets roped into all of fucking Qirong's schemes. But he doesn't really, he doesn't do anything for, like, if he disappeared from the overarching story, would things be affected? A little bit. But, like, very minimally. Because he's just kind of there to chime in most of the time. He doesn't really have anything going for him until the very, very end. Okay. Rongguang. Who the fuck? Isn't that, like, Pei Ming's sword or some shit? I gotta look this up. Who? Let's see. Rongguang is the childhood friend and former deputy general of Pei Ming. He has now become a ghost combined with Pei Ming's past sword Mingguang to seek revenge against him. I literally did not even remember this thing existed. I do now. This was definitely during the Tonglu opening arc. How is this thing on here and Kumo isn't? That's all I have to say about that. That's the only name I do not remember at all. Literally. Who care? And I ask, who care? You know who else isn't in this list that I'm noticing? Our girl. Jianlan. Really? I would put her in low B tier. To be honest. I really liked her. I think that she was a good supporting character, and her accusing various men of being the child of Tsuotsu is like really interesting. I bet people ship Pei Ming with him though, probably, but like who care? Anyway, Shahualing, Huahua, little Ling R. I like her as a character. I think it's really interesting how she starts out being somebody you think is going to be very, very present, and then ends up just being a peon who Bing Hook casually was like, you're fighting your own father, and then nothing is done with that. I would put her around the same spot as Mingyan. I think that she's actually slightly better. It's insane that she's not here. Yeah, I don't know why Jinlan isn't here. Hua Hua, little Ling R. I do think you do more than your girlfriend. Zishuan. Do you do more than Jin Zishuan? Wakanai. Okay, this song. Too much going on in that song. She had more impact than them. She definitely did. Her plot kept things going for multiple volumes. Yeah, it's really, really too bad she's not on here. Anyway, Shahualing. Did she do more than... I think that she kind of did. do more. She's a little more interesting. Yeah. Did she do more than Meng Mo? No. Because she definitely didn't do more than him. Impact-wise. Well... I'll come back to her. I'll put her there for now, but I'll come back. Shen Jiu. I think he's a really fascinating character. I do think he is so... it's so obvious that she was young writing him because he does feel very, like, underdeveloped. The fandom really runs wild on him for a reason. He doesn't do that much as a character overall impactfully. Like, he doesn't do that much except to other people, like Luo Binghe, Yue Qingyuan, Liu Qingge, Shang Qinghua. Like, he has interactions with people that are important, but he himself was not that important to scum villain. But obviously he's like the scum villain of Proud Immortal Demon Way. So he's really difficult to place. Do I think he's better than Mingdre? Do I think he's a better written character? I'm gonna be honest. I don't think so. Do I think he's a better character than Zhang Yanli? I'm thinking. I'm gonna put him there. Because I think that the views that we get of him, like, it's interesting that his story parallels Binghe's so much, and then the writing for Binghe is so much better because he's the male lead, and his writing parallels Muqing so much, but Muqing is better written. And, like, I don't know, I just think that she has played with this trope a lot over the years, and this was kind of the beginning of her playing with it, and you can tell that it's the beginning. I don't think that he's a bad character, but he's missing some stuff. This is like the best, good, but missing some stuff is the best way I can describe him. Shang Qinghua is also S tier to me. So here's my thing. The creativity behind deciding to write the author in as a character, and not only a character, but a character who is, like, supposed to play as the traitor to the male lead and our protagonist, Shen Qingqiu, but then who also gets, like, this bond with Shen Qingqiu because he's like, yo, we're bros from the same hometown, you know what I mean? And then he also gets a romance arc. She really milked this character for what he was worth. And it worked out every single time. He's funny. He's interesting as hell. There's a lot going on with him. Like, the beginning of the Airplane Extras fascinates me. Where it's the flashback of him at his house as Airplane. And he's reading the forums for Proud Immortal Demon Way. And reading and being like, to Shen Yun, being like, like, you're like a wife who can't step away from an abusive husband because you keep coming back and clicking my stuff because I wrote it well. Suck on that. And he's got all this, like, false confidence. He dies. He gets sent into the body of someone who is like a weasel. And it's very interesting to think about. Was Shang Qinghua always such a weasel? Or did he take on the character of that weasel when he grew up in that environment? Nature versus nurture, explored through him. Then the entirety of the airplane extras with him and Mo Bae-jun is the funniest shit in the world to me. The fact that he does the thing where he goes, he's like, you'll never get past my thing, and like does a false spell. That's so funny. That's like the best comedic, he's the best comedic character. I have to say it. Like, he's so funny. Because he's not only funny, like, one of the qualities I think that makes him S tier is that he's not only funny, but he's like clever. He's so clever. Whereas like Shen Qingqiu can be kind of like stupid sometimes. I say that with love, but he can be kind of an idiot at times. But like Shen Qingqiu is a rat. Or Shang Qinghua is a rat. He's a little rat. And that, again, has he always been such a weasel? Or did he get raised that way and turn into that character and become such a rat? Because he's so good at throwing himself down and prostrating and being like, oh, I'm just a little guy, woo, 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 and then just like running away from a situation and fucking people over. It's so fascinating. I really like his character. I don't think he's better written than Bing He, but I think it's close. And then here we are, Shen Qingqiu, also S tier. I think that this guy, oh dear. Okay. Do I think he's better than Lanzhan? I'm putting him here just so I don't have to hold the button. Do I think he's better? All right, let's talk about Shen Qingqiu. We're going to talk about Shen Qingqiu for a hot minute. I think he's really fascinating. The fact that this was her first protagonist in like a major novel is really, really, really impressive, because he's so interesting to me as a character. Him being transmigrated, you know, he has to fit into, he's transmigrated as the villain, which is not necessarily a new thing, right? But he's transmigrated as the villain, and instead of deciding to fight against his fate, he goes, nah, and lays back and takes it, which, don't make the joke, but like, he's so passive, and then because he's being so passive, he doesn't understand that he's like, well, I'm not taking outright action to hurt people, so I can't possibly be hurting people. But his passiveness, he does not realize, he doesn't have the emotional maturity to realize that his passiveness is hurting Bing He and the people around him, right? And so, like, he's so destructive in ways that he does not realize. And then when he does realize it, the impact that has on him as a person, and where he sees Tian Longjun treating Bing He like shit, and he goes, oh, I've not been good to this man. Like, I've not been good to this person who loves me very much. And he's like, I'm supposed to be his teacher and guardian. What have I been doing? And then immediately realizes, okay, I do have to take action. Another thing about Shen Qingqiu that I really like is that he has, and she writes this so well, is that he has such a genuine struggle with giving up autonomy. Him being transported into the body of someone else, he clearly hates it, because there's the beginning where they go to the town and it's that first mission that can unlock the OOC mode, and then he leaves Mingfan in charge of everything and then pretends to be dead. Instead of like doing anything, he just pretends to be dead. And like he just lays around and does nothing, and like you can tell he's like frustrated that he can't go do things, right? He has this system taking control of his autonomy. And then eventually he realizes, you know, he gets the OOC mode, and so he's been able to like do all these things, but it hasn't mattered, because actually he's been controlling his own autonomy this whole time by not acting. He's still been, even when OOC was unlocked, he's still been acting in line with the original plot for ages, for years. And so it really, there's so many contradictions with him, right? And he's also so bad at explaining his feelings. He's like such a perfect INTP. He's like basically the opposite of Bing He, in that he does not know how to express himself emotionally. Like, he's so interestingly written. I don't think that he gets above Muqing, but I do think that he gets above Lanzhan. I'm so sorry, Lanzhan. It's close. But like, I could really go on and on and on about Shen Qingqiu as well. I think that there are so many fascinating things about his character that she Whether she intentionally did it or not, I don't know. I'd be really fascinated to be like, did that just work out for you? Or did you intend to put in these things about him giving up, like the first time he finally willingly gives up autonomy consciously is for Bing He after he has that encounter with his dad? Like, was that purposeful? Because if so, that's such a smart move. And then, S tier. Again, another S tier, but I think probably on the lower end of S tier. Lanchan does not have that pro tag advantage. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting one because I did not think that I was going to put this guy in S tier until I started rereading you know what? I might take this back, actually. He's very high. If he's not going to be in S tier, he's going to be the top A tier. Because, in rereading this series, the amount of foreshadowing for what happens to this guy is outstandingly done. You can really tell that she's come into her own in writing for Heaven Official's Blessing through Shu Qingxuan. Truly. Like, the Wind Master will say something like, he'll say something about justice and how it needs to be served. He'll say something about, like, helping other people. And all of these things parallel into, like, his undeserved fate. He says fates, cannot be reversed so easily. All these things that he says, and he does not realize that he is sending Hoshran into, like, a fucking spiral, probably, because, like, he is like, God, imagine if he had known. Imagine if the Windmaster had known that his brother had done what he had done, because he would have taken Hoshran's side so quickly, not because of any kind of relationship with him. Because if we're choosing between the relationships, we know who he'd choose in the relationship. He's going to choose his brother. But as far as who was just, who was right, he will choose the person who is just and right. The problem is that he didn't know these things, and it goes on for a long time, and there's all this, hundreds of years of pretending to be besties with this guy, and then finding out, like, your brother did this for you, and then of having to apologize on his behalf when he's acting a fool. I really think that he's such a good character. You know what? I am going to move him down for one thing. I'm moving him down for one thing. And that is his ending. Because I do think she left his ending a little too open. I do appreciate that he got his powers taken away and he's immortal now. He's just some guy. And you know what? Like, he's still doing really well. He's very happy. Like, he is a flower that can thrive in many environments. He's, like, very versatile, resilient human being. And then she kind of just leaves it. It doesn't really wrap up his arc super, super well, because there's no really, like, I don't know. Like, the problem is that when I'm saying these things about him being resilient, these are my interpretations. I have seen people interpret his ending as the complete opposite, as him being, he is tolerating it, right? But he's, like, actually fucking miserable because he lost his brother and his best friend, like the two people closest to him. And so I don't know, there's some ambiguity to it, and so I do think I have to move him down for that, because I do think that she did not quite wrap that up as well as she could have. And you know what, now that I'm saying all this out loud, I do think I'm gonna have to put him behind Hua-Chang, because she did not leave any ends undone with Hua-Chang, but she did with him. I'm gonna have to keep putting, oh no, Okay. Alright, that's it. I'm not moving him down anymore. I think that actually these two are even to me. These two are even to me. I really wish that you could portray even. Those two are even. Okay. The Water Master. He's a douche. I will say the things that he does outside of the arc are not that much more impactful to the overarching story than they are for Songlan. when I compare the Beefleaf arc, the Blackwater arc, and that Blackwater story, like condensed to its own, or not condensed, isolated to its own story, right? And then I think of the impact of those characters outside of the story. Hushwan obviously has impact outside of that story. Obviously, the Windmaster has impact outside of that story. Shuwoldu does not have as much impact outside of that story. I'd say he has a little bit more than Songlan does for Yi City, but not a lot. No, you're right, though. I do feel like he and Hushwan were left hanging at the end more than the other main characters. Yeah, well, that's why it was so easy to write a fic for them, I think. Because I was, like, wondering, like, God, you know, what if? And then, here we are. Yeah, I don't think the Watermaster has as much influence outside of that. And he's an absolute menace. I think people like him. There are people who like him. I'm not one of them. But putting that aside, as a character, were it not for the fact that Beefleaf exists, I would forget about him sometimes. Because he doesn't really have a lot going on other than him causing a fucking problem for 2 innocent people, if I'm real. And it even seems like Pei Ming and Ling Wen don't like him very much. Isn't that funny? Tian Jun, he's a great character. I feel really bad for him. I gotta say, like, Tian Jun. I love the build-up that you think that he's going to be this final antagonist, because Shen Qingqiu is an unreliable narrator, and Shang Qinghua also is a little bit unreliable, and he thinks that, like, oh, if this is going to be similar to Proud Immortal Demon Way, then, you know, well, I left him out because he was too good of a character. And he is very complex. Do I think that he's more complex than his original son? No. I would put him here. I think he's a good character, but I do think he's missing some stuff. I think he's another character I would really like to see the result of if she had written this when she was a more practiced writer. But I do think that he's a very good character. He's just simply missing some stuff. Oh, God. This might be one of the most difficult ones for me. Qirong. Okay. Qirong? So when I read the books, I bookmarked all the parts that I liked the most. Do you know how many of those bookmarks are him saying shit? Shit that made me, like, cry laugh at times? You know how many times he talks in all caps? Pengi, I don't know if you're ever going to see this. Hi, Pengi. I don't know if you're, like, realize how funny you guys made this. Thank you for this localization. It's so funny. He's so wretched. I think he's a really interesting character. And I'm going to put him higher than a lot of people are going to like, but hear me out. I think characters like this, and as we're going to see later with fucking Shui Yang, because I have problems, I think characters like this are so fascinating because Qirong is a spoiled little prince, right? So Xielian is spoiled. They're cousins. They grow up together, right? Xielian is spoiled. But Xielian is, like, aware that he's spoiled in some ways. Especially, like, materialistically. He always understands, like, I have more than people. And, like, he's the one to tell, talking about Xielian, he's the one to tell Feng Xin, like, be nice to Mu Qing. Like, we have more than him. Of course he's going to act this way, you know. Qirong is not like that. He had this bad thing happen to him where his dad was not present and was when he was abusive. And then his mother dies. And he, instead of being disciplined and treated like a normal human being and like an adult, he gets stuck in a cycle of grief that culminates in him becoming extremely toxic. He clings to the one thing that he thinks is amazing, and that is Qianlian, and he makes that his whole reason for existence. And then when he does something, like when something bad happens, he throws a fucking fit, and then no one disciplines him. And he's a really, really good example of the dangers of not properly disciplining your kids. Like, seriously, and that sounds so silly, but like, he genuinely is such a good example of giving too much love and adoration to a child who needs to be taught that there is right and wrong in the world can really fuck them up. And he's a great example of that. Then, on top of that, the fact that he has this whole arc where he has this kid, right? And he's like, I'm just going to eat this kid, you know, later. But then he gets attached to the kid, and he doesn't want to admit it. But he keeps getting attached and keeps getting more attached. And then by the end, when he dies, his last words are proclaiming, like, how proud he is because he had a son. And he had this kid, and like, I raised this kid. This is my pride and fucking joy, because he never got that. I love the full circle of that. That's such good writing. He's easily A tier. This is really hard to place him, because I do think he's better written than either of these two. I think his writing is very focused. I think that's the thing that Lan Xichan lacks in his writing that Qirong has, and it really stands out. I do think that he is not as good as Junwoo as far as like his backstory, because he brings no terror to me. He brings no terror to me. He's a silly guy. He brings terror to my heart. He's like, Shang Qingque, I stand by him being the best comic relief character in the entire series of MXTX books. Close second, as far as comic relief goes. But I think, I think almost the comic relief almost does him a disservice at times, because it could have given him a little bit more complexity when he's just being like yelling, like half of his lines are yelling at Xielian and watching to like get a room. You know what I mean? I do think that she's a little bit more focused, even more so. I don't know. These two feel even to me. This is really hard. I'm gonna give it to her, because I think that with Lingwen, by the end of it, you don't know how you're supposed. Well, you know what? But you don't know how you're supposed to feel with him too, because some people still hate him. But I think with her, you really don't know how to feel, because you're like, girl, you did some crimes, but like, okay, welcome back, I guess. You know what I mean? That's really hard. I consider these two to be even. Okay, we're moving on. Ming Fan doesn't do a lot. Bless his heart. He really doesn't do much. I do love the scene. You know what? I'm actually going to put him like down here. I do love the scene where the stair sweeper thinks that the chi deviated Bing He is Shen Qingqiu and Luo Binghe's son, and then tells everybody, and then Ming Fan is like, we thought you had a kid. And then the other flashback scene where Bing He gets turned on by Shen Qingqiu rubbing the ointment into his back, and then Ming Fan sees him running, and he's like, oh my god, it's just like the old times. Finally Shizun is running after Luo Binghe to beat his ass. That's pretty funny, but like, he doesn't really do anything. Xuanji, she doesn't do a lot. Yeah. Xuanji doesn't do a lot, which is why I'm so surprised she's here and Jianlan isn't. She's alright. I feel like she's kind of down here. She really feels like a plot device. When they brought her back, with like Qirong and like them being friends, that was fine. Actually, I feel bad, you know. But she did do more than Mu Qingfang. Mu Qingfang does not do a lot. I'll put her there. She's fine. I'm pretty like neutral about her writing. Her original impact is so much better. I almost feel like her showing up again is a disservice to her character because she was so impactful, and like the fact that in that first arc that she like got so fucked up on Pei Ming. Yeah. Xielian, easy S tier. It's just, where do you go? Okay. You go above Mu Qing. Do you go above Jing Guangyao? Yes. Do you go? Yes. This is where it gets hard. Wei Wuxian and Xielian. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Oh, Grace. Oh, Grace. Shit. Oh, Grace. Okay. Let's just start talking about Xielian and it will come to me. Xielian's one of the best fictional characters I've read about in a hot minute, I think. His beginnings, like in the timeline, being this guy or this kid who's like, if there's not enough water, I'll make more. If I'm a god and there's not enough water, I'll make more. Well, why else would I be a god? And like this naive like outlook on life that he has, but it's not naive in a way that is like, oh my god, like you're so annoying. It's naive in a way that he genuinely really cares about other people and wants to help other people, but he has a little bit, he is an INFJ, he has a little bit of the, what we like to call the protagonist syndrome amongst the INFJs, which is like, you're a little self-centered and aren't thinking about like the other parts of it. And so it's like, okay, so if you're taking that water from somewhere, you're taking it away from somebody else, right? And so you have to figure out that balance, and he doesn't understand that. But I love that he goes through that arc and he goes through all that shit. He gets terrorized and he descends, ascends again, immediately descends. Like he has like this whole thing. He goes through all these traumatizing things that he like literally forgets because he has PTSD. There's no dancing around it. This character has PTSD. He's an accurate representation of anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Very, very, very well written. When his parents kill themselves, and then he tries to do the same thing, and then he kind of loses his mind at that point, and then he goes on to like do heinous things, and then he stabs himself in the middle of the street. He like has the sword in himself in the middle of the street, and then the guy comes over and yells at him for being in the way, and then puts the bamboo hat on his face, and then he says it just took one person. And that's such a real moment. That's such a good moment, because it's like the character, if he had just stayed bad the whole time, the character that they had built up to that point would not have made sense. So for him to go back to his roots and like the real character that we know he is, right? But that angry part of him is also part of him, right? And so it does crop up from time to time, like where he yells at Hua Cheng for telling Lang Qiangqiu how his parents died, and like the truth of the things that happened with his family's massacre, and like how he gets so angry and he's like, I'm sorry, I think I'm going insane. And like, you know, he fears anger, but he has to use his anger as this almost bodyguard for how sad he is. And he's also so anxious because he knows the things that he did were so wrong. And then when he realizes he has feelings for Hua Cheng, he's so afraid for Hua Cheng to learn about these things that he's done, because he's like, that's not me anymore. Like that's part of my past, but like I wouldn't do those things now. You know, he just feels so real. His depressive episode during book 6 was some of the most accurate, if not the most accurate, depressive episode like representation I've seen in fiction outside of fanfic, maybe ever. Just him getting so angry at his friends when they're trying to help, and him just like pushing them away because it's easier that way. He's taken a page out of Mu Qing's book, to be honest, at that point. But like it's just, you're cheering for him the whole time. And sometimes you're doing it with just tears streaking down your face because it's so heart-wrenching. And his care for other people is so deep. And this is where you kind of relate to Hua Cheng. You're like, where is that care for yourself, right? But you recognize that as like something in other people. So I think that he's really outstanding. I think he has a lot of those traits in common with Wei Wuxian. Would I rate Xue Lian above Wei Wuxian? わかんない. The reason I won't move from this will be my top 3. The reason I won't, Xue Lian has a much simpler and less engaging romantic development. Everything about Xue Lian is super realistic except for how quickly he falls for Hua Cheng. What are you, a lesbian? No. I think that Wei Wuxian. Okay, so let's look at this. What I'm trying to say. Let's look at this in the. I know the Danmei is meant for like the female gaze, but let's look at this in the sphere of these being queer stories, right? Regardless of if they're for female gaze or whomever. Wei Wuxian's experience as a queer person is more interesting. Wei Wuxian dealing with compet for like almost, how many instances did I count? Like over 70? It's like defined instances in the 5 books where he has moments of just like wretchedly compet or unaware because of how he was raised. Like but Xue Lian never really denies that part of himself. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. I think it's awesome when queer people come out and they're super comfortable. But it's not as engaging, in my opinion. So I will put him above, but barely. Okay, Shui Yang. Uh-oh. Okay, uh-oh. Let me take a quick drink of water. Shui Yang. All right. People are gonna hate this. Shui Yang, where's he gonna go? What if I literally go, who? Can you imagine? All right. I do think he's better. Let's just go up the line. Do I think Shui Yang is a better written character than Xiao Xingchen? Yes. Do I think objectively, Kat, do I think that Shui Yang is a better written character than Lan Xichen? What are Shui Yang's weaknesses in his writing? He doesn't show up that much. He's a socio or psychopath, I guess. But that's not weakness. That's so interesting. That's good. He's a really well-written psychopath. Okay, do I think he's a better written character than Qirong? Yes. Do I think he's a better written character than Ling Wen? Yes. Do I think he's a better written character than Juno? Yes. Do I think he's a better written character than Jin Ling? This is the most fitting music. Let me crank the tunes. Hold on. Live footage of inside my brain. Yes. Do I think his writing is better than Xuan? This is hard. I think that he goes here. Nope. These two are totally tied though. Do I think he's better written than Feng Xin? No. But I do. Okay, I think it goes here. Oh, this is hard. Okay. Hear me out. This is my biggest hear me out. A psychopath can go one of two ways when you're writing. It can be boring and troped to hell, or it can be engaging and make you think and sit there on it. Shui-Yang is the latter. So let's start there. There's a lot of stories in Grandmaster about people who are children when terrible shit happens to them. But there's even more stories about people who are young adults when terrible shit happens to them. Shui-Yang is actually one of the ones who it happens to him when he's a child, right? So you have to remember, when you're looking at him as a psychopath, these things happen, the extremely traumatic events happen to him, both physical abuse and mental abuse, as a child. 7 years old. What were you doing when you were 7? Do you remember? I was like playing with fireflies or some shit. I don't know. Enjoying my life. Shui-Yang is so fascinating in the writing because you feel that he will be a plot device, but he is the leading character of the Yi City arc. He's an interesting antagonist. Like, they had to kill him off because they couldn't have kept him around with also Jin Guangyao. Right? The extra scene with those two together, so good. So good. That interaction that he has, and he's shitty as hell. He's making tea out of people's, like, tongues that he cut off. And Xiao Xingchen says, he's just a kid. He'll learn. When he's like 2 years older than him. That whole scene, deliciously written. So good. Shui-Yang, you could sit here and pick him apart for forever. Truly, you could pick him apart for forever. What keeps me from putting him in the S tier is, number one, his overall impact to the entire story is there, but not that great. It's certainly not as great as Feng Xin's to Xie story or Hua Cheng's story. It's not the S tier level, right? And the reason I think I want to put him above the Windmaster here is because his ending is neatly wrapped up, where Shouqing Xuan's is not. Both of those characters, both these two, have a really interesting part of them where you look back at their stories when you reread it and you go, whoa, and you notice all these things. But the problem is that this one is not as cleanly wrapped up as this one is. And yes, it helps that he dies, and like how much more cleanly does it get wrapped up? But that's not just it. You get everything kind of defined for you by the fact that Wei Wuxian says to Lan Zhan, I just saw something so sad. I saw an uneaten piece of candy in that hand. Like that's her Yi City writing. We have to move on. I'm gonna start crying. Okay. Yu Shi Huang. She's fine. Honestly, she's not super memorable. I think that you could take her out of the story and it wouldn't change that much. But she does have her moments. She certainly does more in the story than these guys do in their stories. More than him. 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 More than her. More than her. More than him. More than her. I'm gonna put her here because these two do feel somewhat plot device in comparison. Also, she gives such massive lesbian vibes to me. But I don't have a lot to say about her. Like, I will say, the reason I will put her above Chun Yu-jin is because her backstory was what? 2 pages? Maybe, no, it was longer than that. It was like half a chapter. And these two, their backstories were like 2 chapters or something like that. Hers was half a chapter and extremely impactfully written. She's very clever, but she doesn't really show it that often. I would have really liked to have had, she truly is also good, but missing some stuff. I liked everything that I saw of her. There needed to be more of her, is exactly what I would say. Yeah. Yue Qingyuan. Oh, you're a difficult one to rank. I'm thinking. I feel really bad for this guy, but we can't think about that right now. This is objectivity time. I'm gonna have to put him probably up here somewhere, because I think he's interesting, and his reveal at the end of being Chigo is really interesting. But this song keeps coming on and it's a little annoying. He's very passive, and he's meant to be, right? But he doesn't have a lot to do. Like, he's kind of like Mo Bae-jun in that, like, a lot of his character development comes in that flashback, right? But I do feel, and I do think that, like, comparatively, he gets more attention and development into his character overall. It's simply that we don't notice it because we are looking at him through the eyes of Shen Qingqiu, who's like, oh, NPC, you know. I think I'll put him here. Well, yeah. I'd say these two are about even for me, as far as their writing goes. Yeah. Yeah. Yin Yu, who? No, I was just kidding. That's a joke, because he's forgettable, right? He's supposed to be. And I get that he was supposed to be forgettable, but he's like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't really do that much. Like, the writing that she put into him, honestly, he might end up being the top D. Has that changed for me after rereading? Yue Qingyuan? To be honest, so my thing with Yue Qingyuan that makes him interesting is that he was so passive, and then, like, that became his downfall. And so when you find out, like, what his real deal was and, like, how his passiveness, like, fucked over Shenjiao, and then you go back and you reread it, like, oh, personally, I do think he's boring. Personally, I do think he's boring, but I'm trying to be objective. No, the boring is a very subjective opinion. It's simply because he does not fit into the type of character that I like. Overall, his writing, I think, though, you have to admit, like, the impact of his character in the writing is, like, relatively high. Or at least, I guess in this case, like, the middle, right? Because, like, a character I would say is, like, boring in their writing that they don't do anything would be, like, Mingfan. Or Nin Ying. Where, like, I think that she's hilarious. I think that Mingfan's hilarious. They don't do anything in their writing. They don't do anything. Anyway, going back to Yin Yu. I know that the joke about him was supposed to be that he was, like, forgettable. And she had the opportunity to make him such an interesting supporting character, being, you know, the assistant to Hua Chang. But, like, she really, really leaned into, like, him being forgettable. And then it makes the audience be like, well, I don't fucking care then. Why should I care if he's forgettable? And then his whole thing with Chun Yu-Jen, it's like, again, if you remove it from the main story, what changes, really? Like, their fight. It doesn't feel that intertwined. It's just like this drama that happened on the side, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I just don't. I think, honestly, honest to God, that these guys had more impact in their stories than he really had. Like he was a device. He was truly a device. He, like, went and did things. In fact, and maybe I'll feel differently when I'm to the later volumes of Heaven Official's Blessing in my reread, but I see the attempt that was made, but I don't think that it was good, is the thing. That's what makes it really hard to rank this, is I see the attempt that she made to make it dramatic. It was not. It was not. Because it also interrupted, their backstory interrupted some rising action that was really interesting. That was the other thing. I'm gonna leave him there. Oh my god, Zhang Cheng's mom, why is she here? She's here for people to get crazy opinions. As far as the complexity of character, I really don't think that she's that well done. Unfortunately, she had the potential to be really, really interesting, and she just wasn't focused. And I think that was the right decision. But it does result in her being kind of like here, because, like, her memory, the memory of her, really only impacts 3 people. And yes, 2 of those people are, you know, very major characters who are alive through, you know, most of the plot. But, like, there were lots of people who died who also impacted them, who were more interesting, you know? She's here, but not his dad. Yeah. Honestly, his dad is such a nothing character. He would be in the D category as well. Actually, he would probably be, like, in who? And finally, my little snake bamboo boy, Juji Long. He's a really fascinating character. I think that he's probably going to be at least B tier. I think... Okay, I'm putting him here for now. My thing with Juji Long, he's a little underdeveloped because he's just a side character, but I do really like what she did with the fact that he is, like, his idea of, like, black and white and loyalty is so distorted. And so, you know, Shenxing Qiu does something nice for him, and he's loyal to Shenxing Qiu for forever. Tianlong Jun does something nice for him, and he's loyal to Tianlong Jun for forever, no matter what, but he's loyal in a way that is, like, destructive. And I think that's really, really interesting. I'm actually gonna put him here, I think. I do think that he has a little bit over Wending. That's it. That's it. So let's look through this. Who? That's staying. Okay. Low effort character. Honestly, I'm gonna be so honest, this guy goes down here. Yin Yu, Wu Qingfang, Nian Nian, Yu Ziyuan, Wen Zhuliu, Gong Yixiao, Qi Qingqi, Mo Xuanyu, Ying Yingying, Wen Ruohang, Mingfan, Gu Zi. Do I agree with that? Mingfan has no character development. Kudze has a little bit. He also doesn't have any character development. She also doesn't have any character development. Okay. He doesn't have any character development, but that's because he dies. He's pivotal to the plot, like, as a device. Like, if Gudze went away, not a lot changes about the plot. Moshwan, you went away, there would be no plot, in a way. He's very much a device. Okay. I'm sorry that I have to put you in this tier, but it's because we're basing it on the books. I'm sorry. Do I agree with that? She was the one who was kind of giving me trouble earlier. Do I think that she's a better written character than Mengmo? Not really. Do I think that she truly is a better written character than him? Yeah. Okay, I think that's gonna stay. These guys, this gets... C tier was hard. The C and B tier were really hard. You don't do a lot, King. Love you, but you don't do a lot. Ang Jingyi, because at least you're the comedic relief. Songlan, you do have a lot of impact when you're around, but you still have the least amount of impact of everybody in Yi City. Shihudu. Yeah. Xianqiu. I'm gonna move him up. I think there's a little bit of complexity to him that doesn't exist in Qianqiu. Ban Yue. Ah Qing. Chen Yinjian. Okay. B tier. Oh, Pei Ming. Bingo. Bai Wuxiang. Qian Nangjun. Wan Sijue. Yue Qingyuan. Wan Qing. Liu Qingge. Mo Beijun. Zhu Zhilang. Wan Ning, Yu Shihuang, Nie Mingjue, Shen Jiu. Do I agree with this? These two are hard. This is painful. It's causing me pain. I moved them because I think he plays into tropes a little more than he does. I think he just has some more originality to his character. Not by a lot, but enough for me to move them. Sijue, I think, is a better character than Yue Qingyuan. Tian Nangjun. Yeah. 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 He's so menacing. He's a menace and he's menacing. There's a difference. I just feel that there was less foreshadowing done for him. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true, because he has the whole thing with writing the arrays, and then they're like, oh no, he's just like, he messed up. Oh, you know. But is that character writing or plot writing? I feel like that's plot writing, right? Oh, King, I hate that I'm putting you in B tier. Don't worry, you'll get higher in the next one. Okay. Do I really think that he's a better written character than Hashren, though? I do. Well, I do. Because, again, his finale was cleanly closed off. But his overarching thing on the plot, but it wasn't that big either. He really only affected like 3 people. Okay. God, this is hard. Oh, this is so difficult. I think... Okay, I'm gonna move him back. I do think that she is better, but I think that he... Okay. I think that's what I need that to be. Okay, and then Jinling, I do think is a better written character than Junwoo, which is insane to say, but you go, 15-year-old. It's all about you right now. Shiqing Xuan... Yeah. But then Shuiyang... Yeah, because he gets his story wrapped up. Then we look at these friends. Do I aspire... Here's the thing, right? Great character. Do I aspire to this writing level with either of these two? The reason he can't be an S is because I aspire to the writing level, but he wasn't around for long enough, so I would aspire to the writing level greater than that. You know? I think he could stand to be more complex too. And I think that he also could have been a little bit better. Just a little. Just a little. He truly rides the line. And then I think this one is probably the most solidly... Okay, that's it. Crazy. Well, here we are. How do we feel? I can't wait to do the subjective one so I can... I feel like the subjective one won't take as long because I'll just be like, tee, I like this character. Man. Yeah, okay. We did it. I feel like I lost 10 years off my life. Why did I think this was a good idea? Yeah. Well. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. That's it. These two truly are tied in my head. This was really bothering me. These two truly are like the same level of writing to me. Yeah, so that's that. There will be a part 2 next week, same time. And then next week I won't be streaming other than the follow-up to this. And then the week after that, we'll be back to Ace Attorney. My schedule's going to change a little bit. I think I'm going to be streaming more evenings. Just in case. But, yeah. That's that on that. I feel like I'm gonna die. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. I will save this to bring it up to compare for next week. Hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna go make food now. I'm starving. Okay. I use my brain too much. Alright. Bye.